Alright, so today we are going to be doing something to the sedan that I should have done about 2 years ago, which is completely rebuild the cooling system. So it is long overdue. The thermostat is leaking a little bit of coolant and the whole system is just worn and it's starting to go out. The thing has 200,000 miles on it. And it's going to be a performance setup. We got some good performance-y-ish parts. Shout out to the sponsor Mishimoto. We got a brand new Mishimoto full aluminum radiator. We have a set of blue upper and lower hoses to kind of match the aesthetic of the car. We have a Mishimoto electric fan controller, which I have wired to the Spall fan. We did the whole harness install. I did that in a separate video. I'll leave that in the link in the description for you guys if you want to check that out. We have a brand new thermostat, OE temp. We have a Stewart high flow water pump, pretty much like the creme de la creme for S52 water pumps, all that good stuff. So nice and a beautiful high flow water pump, so that is ace. We have a new thermostat housing gasket. The thermostat housing that is currently on the car is already aluminum. I didn't really see a need to buy a whole brand new aluminum thermostat housing when the gasket's like $2, so we're just going to clean it up, reuse the thermostat housing, and re-gasket it. The thermostat also came with its own new gasket, so we should be good there. So I have this hose, which is the hose that comes off the expansion tank and goes to that hard pipe on the engine block. And then we have a set of Rogue Engineering underdrive pulleys. So this has the water pump pulley and the power steering pulley and a new belt to go with the whole setup. So hopefully this should yield like 10 or 15 horsepower or something like that to the wheels. It's all through reduced pumping losses. So same thing with the underdrive pulley. It's pretty much like doing an electric fan conversion in the sense that the engine isn't having to work as hard to move the accessories, so more power gets put to the wheels that was being used to turn like the power steering pump and the water pump and to turn the fan. So the car should get a nice little spruce and additional power, and it should make a nice little difference. Give the car a little bit more character. So we are underdriving it, so the pumps are being pulled slower. They're being turned slower. With the power steering system, I don't think that matters too much, but with the water pump, it will be spinning slower, which is the reason I got the high flow water pump. I want to say 30 or 40% more coolant per revolution than the factory water pump does. So pretty much the water pump will be turning slower, but it'll be pulling more coolant through it per revolution. So I think that kind of like cancels out a little bit. So they do make kits that underdrive the alternator as well, but I got the one that just does the power steering and the water pump. The reason being is underdriving the alternator really doesn't do shit. I mean, I would understand if you had a setup that you saw the alternator pulley, but on these they're pretty buried, so you can't even tell if you had a shiny new pulley. Alternators don't create load dependent on the shaft speed of the alternator, if that makes sense. Pretty much the alternator needs to output X current, right? Now, if you spin it fast, it will pull less load to create the same current. If you spin it slower, it'll pull more load to create the same current. So it kind of cancels out and it doesn't really do anything. So I didn't see the need to spend an extra like 10 or 15 bucks to get the underdrive pulley for the alternator when it really doesn't make a difference. So all of this should be a nice little refresh, not to mention everything is brand new, so we should have no problems with anything in the foreseeable future. We also have a bunch of distilled water and a couple gallons of BMW's finest. Now we do need to drain the coolant, and I am not excited about that. Now if you guys want a standalone video on me explaining how the fan controller setup works, if you watched the electric fan install and you didn't understand it completely and you want me to make another video on that, I can do that for you guys. Alright, so the radiator is drained. I tried to drain the engine block. That coolant block plug just, it will not move, and I cannot get a straight socket and ratchet on there to get it off. I'm not super worried. I've flushed the coolant on this engine before, so I know it's new-ish coolant, even though I would like to get brand new coolant in the entire system. I think when we take that hose from the expansion tank to the block pipe off, I'm going to tilt the car to the side and let it drain out as best as I can, but that engine block plug is not coming out, and that's kind of a bummer to me. Alright, so we're on stands. I got this side a little bit higher up, so hopefully that'll help that block drain a little bit better. It'll also help with when we go to bleed the whole system. Party on. Dude, I love that hood. I love that hood setup. That is so fancy. Let's get you drained, Mr. Hose. And I gotta cut that because this radiator is trash and it doesn't fit on the fan shed properly. But I'm gonna take the upper hose off first. I could just POV this whole rebuild. Yeah, look at that. Gross. Ugh. Ow. We could put that on the Cheeto now and actually have a 6-cylinder fan on that thing. Alright, people break these little clips all the time, so I'm going to give you the good old one too. Alright, take it, up, down, drop the screwdriver, pick it up, down, kind of got to work it a bit, you know what I'm saying? Give her one of those, and keep these for the new radiator. Where are my rubber grommets? Thieves! So right there, there's supposed to be some rubber grommets. You know, it's like a hole shape, so there's supposed to be like these little rubber plugs like that has like a little star that goes on. And you stick those on the bottom of the radiator and they're like little radiator mounts. So they should sit right about there, but I don't have those. Awesome, so we're gonna have to make something work. Yeah, so when I removed the electric fan setup from this car, because it was broken, I couldn't get that fan out. I just zip tied it to the core support. But now we can go ahead and remove it, and it's a little bit of weight reduction there, baby. It just needs to be loose. Ooh, Jesus. Stepping it up to 3/8. Hopefully that bolt didn't freaking stretch when the last shithead put it in. It's not in bad shape, it's just got some freaking heated silicone on it. Look at that. Come on, bro. Alright, moment of truth. Why? Get new gaskets. It's not hard to get new gaskets. Look at that, you know why I didn't seal? Is because this freaking thermostat gasket is a goddamn square. Lesson about O-rings for you boys. And everyone who deals with O-rings at any point in their life. Because I'm gonna tell you guys right now, for your cars and for mine, this shit is not cool. Now I say it's not supposed to be square and you're like, yeah, oh, it's an O-ring. If you really look at it, you'll notice that it is squared off. You see the freaking angle? How it looks like a box going around this way? It's got angles like a square. That is not how an O-ring is supposed to look. If it looks like this, just get a new O-ring. Go down to freaking O'Reilly's, go down to Pep Boys, AutoZone, wherever, they have O-rings like this. And this is not just for thermostat O-rings. O-rings, like the ones on your radiator cap, you see how it's bubbled? You see how it's not square? So here's the new O-ring. If you look at it, it's an O. It's round. It's not square. So that's going to work. You know what I'm saying? I'm not mad. I am mad, but quality, boys. If you have questions, ask. That's all I'm saying in life. That cracked. Also need to do the same to the power steering pump because I have a new pulley for that. Alright, so all that sauce is off. We're also not running AC anymore, so I did want to take this pulley off just because reasons. Alright, now we're going to put the bolts back in. If you plan on deleting the AC, or any of you guys who have AC and you plan on removing that pulley, here's some advice. So when you take the pulley off, I don't know if this is valid, but I'm doing it anyway. When you run the bolts back in, now it's going to have that metal thickness gone. So the bolts are going to go in a little bit farther. So what I've done to sort of keep the bolts at the same length, because what you don't want is to run the bolts in and then those bolts shred your front main seal. To prevent that, I have a bunch of washers here. Now these are valve cover gasket washers. So this washer is that washer. 2 valve cover washers is the same thickness as that pulley. So I'm going to put these washers on the bolts like that, and then these bolts are going to go back in like that, and hopefully it won't shred that front main seal now. So I would like to say that I did have to modify those washers so that they would clear the Jesus bolt little washer in there. So I just shaved down the ends pretty much to match it up, so we'll have clearance for that, because otherwise it's going to hit it and it's going to like jank the washer to the side and not get a proper torque on that bolt. So they did need to be modified. Yeah, it's a bit bigger. Alright, let's see what our water pump is looking like. That one's missing a freaking stud. Are you kidding me? For those of you guys who watched the cooling system rebuild video, you'll know what this is about. But for those of you who don't, the water pump has little 10mm bolts, threaded bolt holes on the sides, and you can thread in some 10 mils and use them to pull the water pump off. Oh yeah, that's a lot of coolant. Alright, so I probably spent closer to 45-ish minutes cleaning and prepping. So we got the housing all nice and clean. The spots where the hoses sit are cleaner. I got the mating surface cleaned up, and I noticed there is some pitting on this. That little notch there. And then there's a little notch on the back. You can see that. Right there. That has a little bit of pitting on it. So I think we are going to use a little bit of RTV on this. Alright, so we took a new water pump. We pull. That little freeze plug thing always goes down. I usually like to take a little finger bit of coolant and just kind of rub it on the O-ring. Alright. Torqued. Put a little bit of coolant on that thermostat O-ring. So I'm going to show you guys how I use RTV just to assist the gasket in sealing a little bit. That's all it's supposed to really do. It's not a gasket maker unless, you know, it's like FitPig and you're using it on your oil pan gasket. But for these, you're really not supposed to use it. But when you do use it, you use it sparingly just to assist the gasket in sealing. Take a little bit. Just kind of soothe that. Just that tiny bit. We'll put the gasket on. That's all it needs. It doesn't need much. Freaking brutal, man. We got a blown out stud on the water pump, and this lower thermostat housing bolt is freaking skipping. If this seals, I will be thankful to the car lords. It is time for the power polish. Look how freaking close that thing is. Jeez. Yeah, I'm sure that's the biggest you could safely make that pulley without it hitting anything. There she is. And there's the number for it. In case I ever need a new one, it will be on this video. Very good quality kit by Rogue Engineering. Looking good. So in editing, this video ended up being way too long, so I'm going to cut it into 2 parts. This is part 1, part 2 is down in the description. Check that out. See you guys later.
We are dreaming in the dark. We are nothing more than dust. Search but you stay lost.